I'm running a 7-figure business and also raising 3 daughters under 7, and I spend 1 hour a month on our family's money. And in that hour, I'm getting radical clarity on how we're doing towards our long-term money goals, which, by the way, are set up to automatically pay off our mortgage decades early, fund 5 different retirement and college accounts, and set up to let us say yes to those fun trips and private school and the stupidly expensive blueberries that my kids absolutely love, in the process helping us never feel broke and without needing to babysit a budget to get it all done. How much money you make has almost nothing to do with whether you can do this, because I've watched people pulling in $400,000 a year do it actually worse than people making $60,000. So I'm going to sketch out this whole system, the exact one that Demir and I run, in the next few minutes. And it really comes down to 2 rituals that I call the Scorecard and the Cascade. And like I said, in total, it takes about an hour a month. Quick disclaimer before we dive in, I am not a financial advisor, and nothing in here should be taken as financial, tax, or legal advice. It's what works for our family, and for your situation, talk to a professional. I'm Carrie Bentley. I co-wrote a Wall Street Journal bestseller on how high performers should run their time, and Demir and I built our company to multiple 7 figures without ever taking $1 of outside investment or money. So I'm the CFO of that business and also the CFO of our household, and I built the system that we're about to walk through. What I love about the system is it helps me know where our dollars are going without having to overanalyze every purchase. So it's simple on purpose because the whole goal is that sense of clarity, right? Getting you clarity so that you can look at your money and feel confident that you're still headed in the right way. Trying to be perfect with everything and not trying to track every penny, just getting that clarity and having the confidence that comes with it. So the system itself is 2 rituals. The first ritual is called the Scorecard. So this is the data gathering moment, and it happens once a month, usually on the 3rd or 4th day of the month after the last month transactions have settled. And what I do is 2 things. First, I look backwards at the month that just happened, and I also take a forward look at the month ahead. And if people do any of this at all, they're only ever doing just the backwards looking part, and that's a big mistake. So I'm going to get into that. So the backwards half is about checking what happened versus what I thought would happen. So I open Monarch, which is a tool that pulls in all of my transactions and tries to sort them based on what it thinks those transactions were for. But since these apps tend to make a lot of mistakes, I also read through the transactions myself with AI helping me catch anything that may have gotten miscategorized. And then I'm taking a look at it. Where did we go over what we thought? Where did we come under what we thought? What was a big purchase that caught us off guard? Great. Most money apps stop there. They hand you that beautiful, colorful pie chart with all this information about what already happened, and then they make some kind of lame prediction for the future. But what I do here, and this is crucial, is I move those numbers from last month into my own spreadsheet because I want to own my data. When Mint shut down a few years ago, everyone on it got forced to migrate to a different tool, and migration typically means errors, or you maybe lost your history entirely. Mine sat safely in my own sheet, and I can switch tools and softwares anytime I want without losing a thing. A spreadsheet also does something that no cookie-cutter app will let you do. It lets you slice and dice your own numbers, run projections, play out scenarios, which is so essential, and it also makes playing with AI and your data a lot easier. So next, after I do the backward look, I'm also going to be forecasting the month that's coming, using last year and last month as my baseline. And the goal here in the game is to try to predict what's going to happen with perfect accuracy, but with the knowledge that you're never going to quite hit it, and that's fine because the point is just trying to get an honest read on what's coming up and when, especially on those sneaky expenses that aren't monthly, like property taxes, quarterly taxes, birthday parties, flights, camp deposits, car registration, vet bills that you already know are coming. So I try to pull each one of these into the forecast so that I have an accurate read on where the month is going. And so notice that I'm not tracking all the lattes. I'm not trying to sort 4,000 transactions or arguing with myself about what meals out are a wants or a need. I'm really trying to stay zoomed out, looking at the big shape of the month. How much money do I think is going to come in? And what are the handful of things going out that are actually going to move the needle? This is the point here. You want just enough clarity to see where you're headed and not get bogged down in the details, because the details are where people drown, when really what you need is clarity and direction. Think about how most people experience their money. Something hits their account and then they react. So a big bill shows up and then they scramble, or they float it on a card and promise to deal with it later. So they're permanently one step behind their own money, always sort of finding out what happened after it already happened. And the scorecard helps to turn that around. So by the third of the month, I already know how that prior month had ended, but I also have a really solid prediction about how the next 4 weeks are going to play out. So ideally, nothing that lands is a surprise because we already saw it coming and we already decided that we were going to move forward with it. So this is the difference between running your money system and your money running you. And really what this works is timing, not discipline, right? The timing of making the decisions in advance when you're calm, when you're in that zone, when you're looking at a sheet, instead of in the moment when you're just, standing at the register with your card in your hand and your feelings are really running the show at that point. So then I've got my actuals for the prior month and I've got my forecast, and I hand just the raw numbers to Claude so that it can turn them into a beautifully designed one-page dashboard that I can read in 10 seconds and even text over to Demir so he knows the plan. And that's it. That's 3 tools for the whole ritual. You've got Monarch, a spreadsheet, and optionally AI. But there's no need to fall in love with the tools, right? The tool is not the system. The actuals and the forecast are. So you could technically run this on a legal pad if you wanted. It would just take a lot longer. So the power about this isn't the app. It's that once a month you are sitting down, getting real clarity on your money instead of just letting it wash over you and happening to you and then trying to clean up after. So this hour is where your whole money system is one, but there is a second ritual, which happens a little later in the month, and it's a real easy one. It's like a 5-minute one, and I call it the Cascade. So you want to do this about mid-month after your paychecks land, and the job of the Cascade is to just move your money to where your plan already says it's going to go. There's nothing to decide when it comes to the Cascade, because you make the decisions when you set up your Cascade, which in our case was months and months ago, and then the Cascade just keeps you focused on allocating your profit or your savings towards your long-term goals. Now, our income swings a lot because we're small business owners, so the exact amounts change every month, but the logic behind them doesn't, keeps us real steady. So the Cascade holds us to our long-term goals, and its job is to take our personal take-home pay after living expenses and allocate it to wherever it's going to earn us the most leverage. So should this month's surplus go to prepaying the mortgage? And if so, how much? And how much to the kids' college funds? And how much to retirement? And we know we should be doing this monthly in order to maximize the power of the market and investing in the market, but it's hard to know every month how much to put in each bucket. The Cascade answers that based on where we personally want to be in the next 5 years. Right now, the biggest slice for us, more than 60%, goes straight actually at prepaying our mortgage because of our super high interest rate. And the rest is split across the girls' college funds and a brokerage account and our retirement accounts. But the split is not permanent because once this first phase that we're in, really paying off the mortgage, then we're going to have a completely different allocation system for our surplus money through our Cascade. So what I love about the Cascade is it really runs automatically. It's just a spreadsheet that's holding on to our long-term goals and telling us what to do with our surplus at the end or the middle, really, of each month. So 5 minutes and it's done. So why would you automate this Cascade portion? Well, the alternative is running your money on willpower, and we all know what willpower will get you, which is not very far. Especially when you're trying to save money, willpower is the worst possible tool for that job because it's so variable day to day. Some days you're feeling really strong, and some days you're feeling really, scared or emotionally wiped out. And that's when it can feel safer to just sort of not allocate your money and just sort of see what happens. And next thing you know, you really start slipping on your goals. So instead, we use the Cascade to decide in advance what are those important allocations to make automatically on what schedule. So the hard part is handled before you even go look at the Cascade. There's such great research behind this. Richard Thaler, who won the Nobel Prize in Economics, ran a program called Save More Tomorrow. When he asked workers to raise their savings today, about a quarter of them did. But when he let them lock in automatic increases from future raises, 78% signed up and then stayed, and their savings rate nearly quadrupled. So same people, same paychecks, and the only thing that changed is that the decision got made once in advance instead of over and over and over again in the moment. So we're going to decide once and execute monthly. You make those important calls one time and then automate them. And then you hit your goals without even thinking about it. And the part that most people miss too is the freedom on the other side of this. Everything left over from that is like yours to spend however you want, like no guilt and no tracking even necessarily. Like your goals are already funded and the rest becomes a lot more flexible, right? So now you've seen the system and it's simple and you might be excited and you might be like, yep, I get it. This is awesome. But before you haul off and make your own version of this, I have to give a little watch out. You can find budgeting tutorials in 30 seconds. They're all over the web. But the thing in the way is that the moment that real money is on the table, our own psychology grabs the wheel without even asking permission. There's a very specific way that your brain trips you up with money. And the cruel part is we can't see it on our own because it's in our blind spots. So by definition, we can't see it. So I built a little thing to show people their blind spot. And it's become my favorite place to start with anyone because none of the rest works until you can really see your personal psychology that's been running the show behind your back. So it's a little quiz that you can take. It's really fun. And at the end, it's going to give you your score and it's going to name a money bias, if you have one, that is most likely to be costing you, along with a real research explanation behind why it happens to most people. So it's totally free and the link is in the description. So why would a method like this work when all the budgets that you've tried before fell apart? Well, two reasons here. The first is the method itself. You've probably tried to budget. Almost everyone has. 85 to 90% of Americans keep a budget, and nearly 40% of them blow past it every single month. So the problem isn't willingness, it's just that the popular methods out there are sort of inflexible. The 50-30-20 rule is a great ratio, but it doesn't really tell you what to do the month that the car registration and the dentist and a big birthday party all land together, right? The envelope method, this cash the stuffing thing all over TikTok, is really just willpower but with like extra props. And even really good systems like YNAB, you need a budget, ask you to live inside an app forever. And they're all very backwards looking or lean on willpower or just bury you in detail. And none of them answer the only question that matters, which is, am I headed in the right direction here? Like, am I on track to my long-term lifestyle goals? And the Scorecard plus the Cascade are able to answer that in just an hour a month. The second thing that a lot of people get wrong is thinking that the answer to their budgeting problems is to make more income. And it probably isn't, because in 2024, researchers found that nearly half of Americans earning over $100,000 a year were still living paycheck to paycheck. And at $200,000, more than a third still were. And it goes deeper than cash flow. In 2023, researchers pooled a decade of dueling research and found out that for people who are already anxious about money, well-being flattens out around $100,000 and stops climbing. So if money is stressing you out, earning more is not going to buy the stress away. So it's probably not the size of your paycheck, and it's definitely not your willpower. So it's got to be the structure of your financial system. And structure is exactly what you just saw me lay out here. And there's one more emotional piece of the puzzle that's really important to bring up, and it really brings the system together. Because everything I've shown you routes your money towards your goals, but you have to know what those goals actually are. You have to answer a question that most people practically never think about, which is, what is your money for at a deep emotional level? So the tool that we use for that is a one-page document we call a money manifesto. And you pick a real date, maybe 5 or 10 years out, and then you write in present tense, like it's already happening, exactly what your life looks like on that day. Not just like, I want to be financially free and retire early. Like something a little bit more specific. Like, where are you? What's your morning? What are you doing? Who are you seeing? What's on your calendar? What are your kids doing? What are you eating? Who is this version of you that has achieved these money goals? And what is she experiencing on this ordinary Wednesday? I'm going to put mine up here on the screen just so you can sort of see visually an example of this. So the manifesto really helps to give you a ruler and a decision filter, because every purchase and business decision sort of gets held up against that one page, and you're able to ask yourself, does this move me towards this future vision or away from it? So this helps your decisions move into your money system rather than relying on your willpower. And for me personally, what money is for has changed dramatically over the years. When I started a version of this 15 years ago, money meant freedom. Freedom from debt, freedom from a job I didn't love. And that word really fit because at that time in my life, I felt really trapped. But that word has shifted and changed as I've grown and changed as an individual and as my family has grown. Today, money means opportunity, and it points towards something instead of away from something. Towards the community that we now live in, towards a school that I love my girls to attend, towards, trips and memories that we're going to make while they're still young enough to want to hang out with us. For us, the point of money is not to die with the biggest pile, right? We want to build room into the plan for life itself. And that means a lot of small things and a few big things. For example, I'm always buying these extremely expensive blueberries because my daughters love them. They're seriously the best blueberries. They're like $30 a week, but no guilt around that, no math around it. And then there's bigger purchases too, like going to Italy for a month in the summer, already having that planned in the system so we don't have to feel guilt or shame around making those decisions. So money stops feeling like, spending versus saving. It starts just feeling like living a life that we decide. So that's the full system. We got the scorecard, the Cascade, and the manifesto. And this is the full money system that we're running every single month. Now, if you want the built-out version and all the spreadsheet templates already set up and the exact prompts that I'm handing to AI and the phase planning framework and all of it walked through step by step, then that's my course, Ballin' on a Budget. It's the first thing that I'd hand to a friend who says, just tell me how to do it already. The link's in the description if you want to check it out. But before I let you go, I want to leave you with the real payoff from this full system, because I was even surprised by what I got out of it. When I built the first version of this 15 years ago, I expected to, make us richer and get better returns and get bigger numbers. And sure, it did all of that. But the thing that I really got was the end of a low, constant hum of money anxiety that I'd been carrying around for years without even noticing. As it turns out, almost everybody carries it. The American Psychological Association tracks this every year, and money sits right at the top of what stresses Americans out over and over and over again. In their most recent survey, 3 out of 4 adults called it a significant source of stress. And it doesn't even spare high earners. The anxiety isn't necessarily just about the numbers. It comes from not having a system that sort of stands in front of the numbers and holds that weight for you. So when you have that system built and running, that hum can just switch off. And for us, it's not because we suddenly got rich, it's because we got clarity. Our dollars have a job, our priorities are already figured out, and I always know that we're headed in the right way. So worrying about it already happened, right? We have a moment where we're worrying about it, and the rest of the time is what I get to enjoy. Just the calm from knowing exactly where we're pointed and that we're getting to our long-term goals. And if your money system isn't giving you that, you're still like bracing and still surprised, sometimes positively, sometimes negatively by your bank balance and not sure if you're headed the right way, then your system is probably a little broken. And that is a fixable problem, right? And probably a better problem than the one that you thought you had. So, in closing, Here are my 3 money principles that I love to keep in my head at all times. Money is for you, not for someone richer or smarter or more disciplined. It's for you. It's for all of us, and it's for the life that we actually want. Play it like a game. This isn't a test. It's a game. You're learning. You're not going to quit soccer because you missed one shot. You're going to get back in the game. And the one that I'm still learning, you're allowed to enjoy what you built. Not someday, not when the next big number lands. Now, this is the entire point of doing any of it. So, if any of this landed, drop me a comment below. You can do the quiz first. It's the fastest way to find your own starting point. And I'll see you in the next video.